Well, would you address, Mr. Musk talking about, his view that media is not necessarily objective, right? Um, and then there's this underlying conversation that I have with a lot of young journalists when I go and talk to student journalists about the difference between journalism and advocacy. So, like, would you talk a bit about what Mr. Musk is seeing, and also how you think there could be opportunity for the Emma Bowen fellows that are coming through you.
What I love about what we do at the foundation is we've got 2,000 plus alums who have gone through this rites of passage, this experience of multi-year summers and engaging with us even throughout the school year, such that there's a community where they're encouraging, the older generations are encouraging the newer generation, as it were. And ironically, I think we always have to come at things from we've been resilient for a reason, people of color, whether it's in the United States or across internationally. We've had no choice but to grin, stay in it, wrestle it down by way of the distrust, the untruths, as it were. We don't really have the choice to not engage or to opt out, because opting out means more of the same is going to happen by way of who's telling the story. So I think there's a distinction to be made between advocacy and the things that you lobby for, but you also have to be able to tell the basic truth in any situation, any narrative. And I think our folks are committed to wanting to tell the truth. And then I think it's okay to add a layer of, here's my perspective about that truth. But we should be leading with facts first. So I think for the generations of Emmas who have come through, it's a challenge being in a newsroom. It's a challenge needing to figure out your sources and where is the information coming from. But I think we challenge each other in this business around, why are you here? What's your why? And I think when people get very clear about their why, it helps the work. It's not that it's easy. And I think there are too few of us who are willing to have what I'll call the distinction between, here's the issue and am I advocating for or against said issue? But you have to deliver the facts first. So I think the training that comes with having multiple summers, the ear hustling that goes on in newsrooms, it's incredibly important to help shape the narrative, but then you actually have to have a point of view. And as long as we're separating the emotion, the advocacy portion of this conversation with leading with facts first, I think it's safe. And I also think we owe it to each other. Sometimes we're not willing to be or have the dissenting point of view in the room because it's not encouraged. I think you have to have push-pull. So while we're dealing with facts and we're dealing in truth, there needs to be a moment where we're not all going to agree. We're not a monolithic community. We don't always see things the same. That has to be okay for healthy push-pull dynamic. But to go back to Musk, and I think people have a platform and need to be responsible in how they leverage their platform. I don't know that he sees himself as a mentor or an advocate, whether it be for whites or for people of color, human beings. I think sometimes we get too caught up and we go down the rabbit hole on the voice or the bobblehead, as it were. But if we could appreciate privilege and we can appreciate that he has a platform that I'm not sure he's always using responsibly, people have to have a sense of, does this make sense? Have I done my due diligence? Do I really know for sure what exactly is happening? Because we get too caught up with telling a narrative that makes us feel comfortable. And I would like to think that our Emmas have been trained to find their comfort in being uncomfortable, not just because they're often the only one in the room, whether that's the only woman, the only person of color, but you have to learn to navigate spaces that traditionally haven't been held for us. They've not necessarily created a comfortable environment. but that doesn't mean that we don't venture into those spaces. So I think we're training our Emmas to be fearless, to be smart, to do their homework, and to be thoughtful about where does advocacy net out in their experience. I think the experience of going through the journey is what gives them the wherewithal. It's what holds them true to a higher standard, not necessarily because the people before them were modeling for them what it looks like. So I think there's an ethical component to this that if you are willing to take the time to unpack, you'll net out in a better place, both psychologically, but also socially. And I do think too often we're not able to walk into a room, not have a perspective, at least one that we're willing to back up. And so it can be challenging and uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean we don't do it.